Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming this afternoon. It's a lovely sunny day outside and you're here listening to us developers about games. We really appreciate it. So I'm co-founder of State of Play. It's an indie game studio specialising in unique handmade games, and I'd like to talk to you about that different approach we have to making games. So we're probably most known for this game, which is called Luminous City. It was all made completely by hand. It was a metre by metre, 2 metres by 2 metres, like big model that we filmed and created a point and click adventure about it. We established our company in 2008, so we've been around a while, seen the industry grow in so many different ways we would have never expected. And it's fantastic to still be a part of it. So how did we get here? So myself and my co-founder, Luke, we're definitely from an artistic background. We did a sort of digital design degree, but any ideas we had, first of all, it would be a sketchbook and a bit of paper. I always say, like, a blank white screen on your laptop is really scary when you're trying to come up with ideas. So all through our games, we've had these kind of 4 core elements that I think we are drawn upon. And again, we didn't know this when we're designing games, it just kind of comes across. So before, I know we've only got 15 minutes, so I'm kind of trying to wrap things up very quickly. Loom was our first self-published, self-made game. Before this, we were doing animations, sort of flash games back in the day for sites like Miniclip, but even though they were quite sort of standard sports game, they all had a handmade element even then. And in our spare time, we wanted to make this point-and-click adventure game called Loom. So again, you can see Lumi, who's in Luminous City, was her debut. This was a game that we shot all by hand with dolls house features, and lit by ourselves in one of our mum's front rooms. And I'm not exaggerating with that. So yeah, you can see the scale of this, very small, very contained. And we were like, okay, well, let's make this game and let's see what happens. And we didn't know anything about the industry, we were so naive, but we put it on Steam, and luckily it picked up and and did brilliantly, and that was the start of our self-publishing dream, really, and we haven't really looked back since. So why make things by hand? Well, as you can see, it looks pretty cute. So we weren't natural programmers, we weren't natural, oh, let's get a render and do this. But we hang on, we want to get these shadows working across the scene. And we were like, well, if we just shine a light on a bit of paper, it kind of works. So, this is something I've put in a lot of talks I've done, but I think it really captures what we want to say. So I'll just read it out. Making things by hand breaks down the wall between intention and final artwork. And that's again how I mentioned the sketchbook idea, and how actually I have an idea in my head and I just want to get it down as quickly as possible. An artist, you can get a more immediate and truer representation of your idea. As a viewer, you can easily see the intention of the artist. The work feels more human, and ultimately, it's got soul. So if we wanted to tell a story and get our ideas across, what better way than to make people care about it? And I think, we're all familiar with the work of people like Aardman and things like that, and you can literally see the elements that the artist wanted to get across. And that's what we're always trying to do. So, after Loom came out and we were like, hang on, we can do this, we wanted to be more ambitious. The one thing we did was collaborated. So we had a fantastic people working on this idea. This was an architect who never played a video game before, Katrina, and she came and worked with us. We also used techniques such as laser cutting, and we worked with silversmith, set designers, paper artists to create so much more for Luminosity and really set our vision to life. So again, this is Mum's front room with Loom. And as you can see, quite a small set. And then this was how big Luminosity ended up. So we filmed that in a TV studio. We could only afford the camera for one day, being a small indie company we were, and we literally kind of did lots of different camera moves to create the final result. So again, moving on from Luminosity, again we launched that on across the platforms, and it did really well for us. So we were now knowing what we were doing a bit more. So again, working on something really big like Luminosity, we then worked on smaller games, but again this ultimately is quite a simple puzzle game, but it all started with a handmade element. It's paper folding. This is Kami 1 and 2, which is we launched. And again, a game called Inks, which is all about pinball. Again, quite a simple game mechanic, but we did things like, you know, these ink splodges were all firstly created by hand and experimented with by hand. Again, wanting to have that jump from screen to reality, we actually made a real pinball table here, which is up in the National Video Game Museum in Sheffield at the moment, if you like to play it. So the latest game that we've launched is a game called South of the Circle. It's based in Antarctica and based on a true story. My friend's dad was head of British Antarctic Survey in the 1960s, and we wanted to tell him, we were inspired by his story set to create our own. Again, starting with something that isn't screen-based, we wrote a book about the story, which and then that was the first point, and that inspired the final book. And we somehow convinced our accountant that a research trip to Antarctica was fair play. So we all, we all took a trip to Antarctica, which was amazing. And again, the first-hand experience of being there and our thoughts on what we thought Antarctica was before we went was completely different. You know, we did sound recordings there, we did mocap movements there, we did watercolours, and again, like sort of explaining, we always started with the handmade elements. These are prints we did, the team did there, and yeah, it was a fantastic experience for the team. And we came back with like fantastic resources to use going forward. Again, South of the Circle was inspired by many different brilliant artists, including, this is a family member of my co-founder, again, big inspiration. This is one of his original prints from the 1960s, and this is a final scene of South of the Circle. And likewise with this picture. So again, with State of Play, we always enjoy developing new ways of working. We're happier when we're at the edge of what we can do. Naively kind of thinking things are possible and hoping we can do it, but it pushes what we do. Again, we've never worked with actors before, so South of the Circle was a brilliant way of working with some fantastic actors for the game. And again, using this mocap technique, we'd never done this before, and always asking questions. Don't be afraid, like we didn't know what we were doing, and we just asked people to help us, and getting some great people involved really helped. So I'm just going to show you the trailer now.
can't change the past. We can learn from it.
I thought you get half left.
Yeah, I can. Before we fool ourselves into remembering it too kindly.
Make a soldier of you yet, Pete, my boy.
Hello? Hello, can anyone hear me coming? As you know, I have some friends in high places. I need to be absolutely sure we are on our guard.
Our only hope is for you to find a friendly out there. If you don't do this, we're both done for. You hear me? We are dead.
So again, just to go back to what I started with at the start, how did we get to here? So following our intuition and what we love, not guided by a business plan, guided by a sense of direction, and not the end point. Doing things weirdly, hand making things, writing books, travelling across the world, all things that we've just naturally been drawn to, and it's put soul in the game. Collaborating, and I don't think we knew this enough at the start, working with people that can lift a project when you really need it has been really important. Being flexible, and like I said, with Kami and Inks, we small projects gave budget and time for larger ones to develop. You know, we self-published our games, and to work, you know, to have the budget available to work on big games like Lumino City really helped us. And a really obvious one, but being ambitious. And I think when you've been in the industry for a long time, being excited about creating something new and pushing what that can be, that's something that's really valuable. So again, back to the thing I mentioned at the start, like art, craft, story and message has always been the core values of State of Play. And so, yeah, that's a summary of our work, and thank you for listening.